Hi guys, the episode that you're just about to listen to is generously sponsored by our affiliates Board Game Crate. Board Game Crate provide a monthly subscription service where they get fresh new games delivered straight to your door. Just head over to www.boardgamecrate.co.uk, and furthermore, if you use our discount code UnluckyFrogIsAwesome, all lowercase, all one word, you'll get a cheeky little discount. It's easy to remember because it's true.
Hello and welcome.
No, God, you stole it from me. It's my thing. I always do it.
We never delegated this out, Josh. You've just claimed ownership of it.
Yeah, but I always do it.
Well,
Hello, welcome to the Unlucky Frog. It's
things are going to change now, guys, because I'm on the scene.
right.
No, not saying you do.
Down with the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Careful now.
Hello, and welcome to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. We're just dismantling society right now. So,
are you feeling a bit shaken from these changes? Shaking you to your core?
Shaking your jimmies.
My jimmies have been rustled.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know. Change is uncertain. You know.
You don't like change.
The only
Josh.
certainty is change.
I know. So I've just got to live with it.
So is this turning into an intervention now, Josh?
I don't know what this
Therapy
is
session?
anymore. I thought we were
Josh,
recording an episode.
Relinquish control.
I thought we were doing a episode of the podcast, but apparently this is like on the psych couch with Josh.
Yep.
I'll talk about how I'm a bit of a control freak and a little OCD.
Can I just say I'm uncomfortable with how comfortable you look right now.
On the couch.
Because
I'm actually sat on the couch.
For the benefit of the tape, Josh is wearing his joggy bottoms.
Oh, come on.
Come
No,
on.
like,
There's
no one
nothing
needed to do... You didn't need to... Right, okay, so...
This is not going out. This is going out to the patrons. Right, this is not going out.
We're just gonna run with this now.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, I've showed up in my trackies tonight because my Levi's were washed last night, and denim takes a long time to dry, so they're still a bit wet. And currently, I only have one pair of jeans. So
yeah, that's okay. But it was. I was when you came over, I was engrossed in Red Dead Redemption.
5 minutes later,
standing in my periphery, and then I just stopped. And like, hold on, are you wearing joggy bottoms?
I don't think you've ever seen me. I never wear these unless I'm like confident I'm not gonna see anyone today.
See, I would only think it weird if you had them tucked into your socks. I think it's very normal to wear joggers.
That's the threshold.
That's it.
Tucking them in.
Tuck them into your socks. That's a whole other level.
So if I do this now, is this gonna upset you?
I just think.
Why do people do this if they're not riding a bike? By the way, like
I just think they're a bit of an uncouth garment.
What?
To be honest, like joggy bottoms.
It's a sign of some sort of deviancy.
I think so. Well, generally speaking.
Is it because of how easy they are to take off?
I don't know.
Is that the fear?
Well, at the risk of sounding a little bit class distinctive, when you grow up in Glasgow, generally speaking, the people that venture out in joggy bottoms are more often than not up to no good.
There is one thing worse than venturing out in joggy bottoms, though.
In your pyjamas.
Pajama bottoms.
Yeah.
Yes, this is true. I think we all draw the line on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Tuck them into your socks.
But do you know what? I'm going to do this more often because, quite frankly, they're comfortable. All right.
Yes.
I'm normally sat in this I'd say recording studio. Yeah, it's our recording studio. I'm normally sat in our recording studio in my jeans, and I'm just like boiling hot. This is nice, loose, comfortable. It's great.
Okay.
There we are. So, board games.
Yeah.
What's been going on in the world of tabletop gaming lately?
So, lots of games seem to be getting errated at the moment.
We're finally going to do the Errata episode.
Yeah, I'm determined to talk about it.
I was going to say housekeeping.
Yes.
We did have Patron Day recently,
yes.
didn't we? So that's why. We do
Yes.
we do have a bit of housekeeping, but we are also honouring Patron Day by doing a little roll call.
Yes.
Yeah. Some of these patrons have been donating to us for a very long time as well.
Yeah.
So, without further ado.
But on that, we also do have some new patrons too.
Yes.
Here to get some shout outs. But we are going to go through and we're going to honour each and every one of our current patrons to thank them for their ongoing love and generosity.
Let's start off with the shout out for our 2 new patrons.
Yes.
Joining us on the Wall of Fame, we have Ross Glover and
Woo!
Simon Marr.
Woo! Now, I
Thank
remember,
you, guys.
Ross Glover, we met at Glasgow Games Fest.
Yes,
he
that's right.
is One Survives. And Simon Marr, I remember having a very brief discussion with Simon Marr up at Tabletop Scotland.
Well, there you go.
We were ships passing in the night.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much, guys, for joining our growing ranks of Patreons. So, without further ado, let's go through some of these fine folks.
Simon Harper.
Woo! Ewan Bowers.
Alan Gilmore.
Scott Russell.
Duncan Cowan.
Barry Collier.
Some guy called Tom Mannering.
Yes, Ryan Trotter.
Kevin Ogilvie.
John from Errata Games.
In remote.
Some podcast called We're Not Wizards.
Some guy called The Giant Brain.
There we are. Look, so thank you very much for your continued support. It is really appreciated.
Yes.
So, and if you too want to show your support to the Unlucky Frog, by all means, feel free to drop onto our Patreon page, and as little as $1 helps out an awful lot. It's through our Patreon we've been able to get some new equipment, basically, which has allowed us to do some videos. It's allowed us to start streaming. It's allowed us to for you to see our beautiful faces with the lighting rig that we have now.
Yep.
So thank you, guys. We couldn't have done it without you.
We do have one very important announcement to make.
An additional important announcement.
Which is actually an important announcement in terms of the whole of the Unlucky Frog.
Okay.
So in January, we will be having a special event. We will be hosting a special event where we will be relaunching ourselves.
Well, it's a surprise.
Yes.
I don't want to give the game away.
Things will be happening in January, and our patrons are all invited.
Yes.
So keep your eyes out for your invites as they come in.
I've sent save the dates already. However, I will get in touch with the 2 new patrons to make sure that they know what's
Fantastic.
happening.
And if you want an invite to that,
just
become a patron.
Yeah, there we go. Just give us your money.
Yeah. There we go.
So thank you very much once again, Patreons.
Round of applause for the patrons. Woo!
Wonderful.
All right. News.
Yeah. So, for some reason, it seems as though this is the appointed season for doing updates for games. It's probably just coincidence, but the 2 in particular, both coincidentally set in the Age of Sigmar universe. Age of Sigmar Champions is continuing to have some updates, and they still seem to be centering around the Destruction faction.
Right, is that still considered a bit stronger than the rest? Is that the issue?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I have been out of it for a little while because I think I'd said in an earlier episode that I was feeling a bit scunnered of Age of Sigmar Champions, so I've not been keeping my finger on the pulse, as it were. But stacking is being changed, so I think that you can now only stack onto units that say they stack.
Oh, you can only stack on stackers?
Yeah.
Oh, because it used to be that you
could stack on anyone.
But the problem was, as we know, it meant that Destruction were absolutely tearing through the quests because of that, because they didn't have to think too much about where they were stacking things onto. To me, it's really underpinning just how badly balanced Destruction have been, because since the game launched, and we're nearly 3 months into the game now, and in all of that time, they have been making changes to Destruction, and they still don't seem to have toned them down enough. And I understand that they were going for 4 distinct flavours, not just in terms of aesthetics, but in how the 4 factions were played. But I really feel like they made a mess with Destruction.
Yeah.
I think the game would actually be quite finely tuned if that faction wasn't in it.
Wow. All right. It's been a while since I've played it, I must admit. I'm hooked on the old digital version of the cardboard crack. So I haven't been playing so much Age of Sigmar.
The electronic crack.
Yes. Electro crack.
Huffing them electrons.
Yes. Sweet electrons.
Yeah.
We're talking about Magic the Gathering, by the way. Yeah. But yeah, my experience with Age of Sigmar Champions was a bit different to yours, because the Destruction deck was powerful, but it never got like runaway good for me, but I was dipping in and out a lot less frequently. I think you climbed a lot higher on the ladder than I did. So I think obviously when you were getting up towards the higher tiers, you were facing up against the same deck again and again and again, and that's never really a good sign, is it?
No, it's not. And it's actually a good point to move on to the next game we were going to talk about, which is Warhammer Underworlds, which is... They've actually introduced a banned and restricted list for this, which is something I did not expect for this game.
Okay, so how many cards are on it?
So 5 cards have been banned, all told.
Okay.
And I think 15 are on the restricted now.
So banned is fairly self-explanatory.
Yeah, you cannot use them in any organised play now. Restricted is you are not allowed to have more than 5 of those cards on your deck. And when I first saw that, the banned cards, I was like, fair enough, because I can't remember all of them, but the Great Concussion was in there.
Ah, surprise.
Aww.
Which that pretty much made objective decks irrelevant.
Yeah.
But that's a firm favourite of yours.
I've not used it so much in the past few decks that I've built. Seriously, I've not been using it as much because
you haven't been playing against my skeletons.
No, well, no, but there was actually stuff that I wanted to use instead of it.
Aye.
So I ditched it because I thought, and it was that way where you've alluded to your skeletons, but you weren't coming up against objective based decks.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was looking at Earthquake and the Great Concussion, and just thought, just got rid of them. So that's been banned. The way the restricted cards work is you can only have 5 of those in your deck.
So what's an example then of a restricted card?
There's a whole list of them, but there are objectives within that. There are upgrades and there are ploys.
So what is it that out of that list you can only have 5?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Right. Okay.
So it's quite a strange one because normally when you can have 5 of these, it's 5 of the same type of thing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought.
Yeah.
I don't remember having 5 of the same
but
card
you've got,
in my deck.
No, but you've got 3 card types.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is why I was a little confused.
Yeah.
No, that's how it works, and there's a whole list of them that are available on the Underworlds website. I'm not going to list them all because you could spend a whole episode just talking about that.
Yeah.
But at first I was like, right, okay, I can understand the banned cards. The restricted ones, I was a bit, But then see the amount of comments where people have been like, well, that's my deck irrelevant now. So it must have been an issue. And we've only done a little bit of the organised play, so we don't really have a handle on what people are using in the meta, to use the buzzword. But the sheer volume of people that I've seen going, well, that's my deck done, makes me think that it probably had to happen, because I think that it was becoming quite homogenous.
I hadn't seen too much on it. However, there was a discussion in one of the board game groups on Facebook, and somebody had said does this mean the return of objective-based games?
Yeah.
In relation to that, and there was a really interesting discussion. Probably the opposite then. So not the people that are getting annoyed, but the people who would normally be annoyed and not being able to do that. But that's what I saw in it.
It's really strange because we've always played it objective based.
Yeah.
I mean, I maybe tend more towards the aggressive playstyle, but even then, I nearly always have something for objectives.
Whereas I'm a full-on pacifist.
Yeah.
I'm not even interested in killing anyone.
Just grabbing all the money.
Yeah, just give me the gold. Give me the gold.
Yeah,
I'm smiling here because, again, as a Magic the Gathering player, it's like, ha! You guys are getting a taste of this.
Yeah.
This is fairly commonplace in Magic, particularly if you play the older formats where they don't rotate cards out and the only change-ups in the formats are cards being banned and unbanned. Right. So Modern's a great example of a format that's in flux because, or not only because of the cards they're introducing, but because of the cards they ban over time as well. So I don't know. Like at the risk of sounding unsympathetic, get over it. I don't.
No, I mean. I wouldn't necessarily articulate that the same way, but as I've already said, the fact that so many people have been saying, "Oh, well, my deck's done now," it makes me think that
build a new. Is that like it's not even like with it doesn't even cost that much to just go and build a new one.
Yeah, it's not like Magic the Gathering where you're going to have to buy a booster box or buy a load of singles. You have everything you need.
This $100 card that I had has now been banned in this format, so there's $400 that's just gone out the window.
No, it's not. It's not like that. Yeah. It's more or less the living card game format.
Yeah.
So you should really have everything you need at your disposal, and there's no duplicate cards either. So.
Yeah. So there we go. So that's the banned and restricted announcements for Warhammer Underworlds. What else? I mean, we could. My attempt at a smooth segue has just collapsed underneath me here, but card games. KeyForge! KeyForge!
We spoke about this in our last episode.
Yes, I haven't had a chance to play it again.
Yeah.
But I'm keeping an open mind.
We're going to pick up.
A bit underwhelmed though.
We're going to pick up KeyForge, and we're going to pick up Transformers as well. At some point.
Because we've been meaning to play that for a while. But we a couple of episodes ago we put it to our listeners to send us in some of the daft names that have been coming out. And I haven't been told. Ben's got the list. I have not been told them.
A big shout out to Scott McKellar.
Yes, thank you very much, Scott.
For forwarding this on to us.
So, without further ado,
I have in my possession a list. I say a list. It's 3. I mean, there's a whole host of these decks where KeyForge blamed it on the algorithm. Essentially, you get these randomly generated decks, and they therefore have these randomly generated names.
Yeah.
And some of them are quite rude.
Yes.
So KeyForge, Final Fantasy Flight rather, issued a recall for them, saying that if you turned one of them in, you would get 2 decks.
Seems fair.
In its place, but if I had a deck with one of these names, there was no way I would trade it. I would cherish it forever. Okay, so first one, Wang the Suddenly Bruised.
Oof. That just sounds sore. Like
the next one, you should know.
Okay.
The Emperor That Pays for Boys.
Yeah. So
why are you cheating that on, Josh?
This was
Some context, please.
This was one of the first ones we spotted, which just made me laugh so much. I am not cheering on the idea of paying for boys, or an emperor or anyone should not pay for boys.
Or anyone.
Yeah, or anyone for that matter.
Yes.
And then finally we've got General Bone Rider Colt.
Oh wow, he sounds like some sort of Marvel villain. I'm picturing like a skeleton. Right, it's the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket, but it's a skeleton.
Yeah.
There we are. That's who he is. That's awesome.
See, Josh and I were talking about this morning. Josh and I get the bus to work together in the morning, and we were talking about some of the names and suggestions and stuff. And I had asked about actually, because obviously you'd said the decks are randomly generated, so there must be an algorithm to show that the deck's balanced. Because you obviously want to make sure it's a deck you can play. There's no point just having random cards that don't synchronise or anything like that.
Yeah.
So then I think, well, if you've got that, surely they would have.
But I think
the means, and that makes me think that I believe maybe not all of it, but some of it may be a marketing ploy.
Maybe, but at the same time, there's so many combinations of decks that it is possible that they didn't check them all.
But I'm not making this up, am I? There's some of the deck names are just outright offensive. Like, I mean, racial slur offensive.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Aye. Obviously,
these were some of the tasteful ones.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat the one that I spotted, but my God.
It was a bad one, was it?
Oh, yeah, it's about as worse as it can get.
Yeah.
So,
do you think a racist employee just straight up overrid the algorithm?
Maybe the algorithm itself is racist, and that's a terrifying thought.
The one that I really liked, I was saying to you again because I also walked back with you from work today. That somebody had shared, they'd got a deck and were sharing their cards, and it was Tim Fusion.
Tim Fusion.
I thought, Tim Fusion, like
one word.
Name, Tim Fusion.
All right.
Just Tim Fusion.
I was like,
which
weird.
sounds
How
like
bizarre.
sounds like some sort of lame superhero.
Tim Fusion.
But
So what might incentivize some people to turn these in is allegedly all the offensive names are going to be banned from competitive play.
Ah, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So it does mean that, as funny as some of them might be, I think a lot of folk are probably going to just take a picture of it and turn it in.
And the other,
part of me does feel that it's a marketing thing, because if unique games are going to be something that's going to be happening, is this going to happen every time there's a release?
Well, they're not all necessarily going to have randomly generated names.
They should.
Not all unique games.
But when they do,
is this going to be? Surely there must be some degree of quality control.
There will be a degree, but is anyone that knows a little bit about quality control will know is that they only check a percentage of everything. You can't check everything, especially on the scale that KeyForge will be being produced. There's no way that they can check all of that.
Incidentally, I've noticed anyway on my social media that KeyForge is getting a lot of advertising.
A lot of attention.
The other thing that is indicative that it is indeed the new hotness. There is a few people have been selling their decks on eBay, particularly strong, or what is currently thought to be competitively strong decks. There is one deck that went up on eBay that had reached £1,652.
How many bids?
48.
That is moronic.
That's crazy.
It is. I would like to remind everyone, we do live in a world where trading cards can go up to tens of thousands of dollars for a single card. The moment you slap the word collector on a product, then it has the potential to get extremely expensive.
What's the most expensive Magic card you've ever bought?
Right, so in all honesty, in terms of actually paid cash for, £40 for a single card. The most expensive card that I own is in excess of £100.
Right, okay.
But I didn't. I
pulled that out of a pack, right?
I effectively won it. When you go to the Grand Prix, they almost have in those kids' arcades where you play games and you get tickets. So you compete in side events and you earn tickets over the weekend, and then at the end of the weekend you trade them in for a price. So I traded mine in for this collector's box, and that was one of the cards in it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I knew I was getting the card,
Yeah.
but I was pretty chuffed with how I did. But yeah, in terms of cash, £40, and it was to complete a set.
Yeah.
So while some of our listeners, probably my dad as well, if he's listening to this episode, are thinking, how can you pay £40 for a piece of cardboard? Well, you know,
there's a little bit of values relative, but I'm just going to straight out say this, that paying £1,600 for a deck of cards is moronic. And even if you can afford to do that, don't do it. Go and give some money to a charity or something like that. Do something useful with it.
The thing for me is, we have no idea how long KeyForge is going to be around and popular for. I mean, it's very big at the moment, but will it keep that momentum? It's only been out for a couple of weeks.
It might become the Beanie Babies of card games, where everyone was saying at the time, this is worth thousands, and then 10 years later, nobody wants them.
We do have a lot of Beanie Babies.
Yes, but not because I'm a poor investor. I was a collector as a child, okay? Yeah. Just putting that out there.
Difference.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say anything because most people think they're mine.
No, when I was a lad, I had a veritable Noah's Ark of Beanie Babies.
Still do.
Adorning our wardrobe.
I couldn't bring myself to get rid of them.
No, I'm the same with my Magic cards now. Yeah. I think no matter how, if I was to ever really hit hard times, I don't think I could ever bear to. My Magic cards and my guitar. They're the things I couldn't bring myself to sell.
So you would resort to prostitution, but you would still have your guitar, your Magic cards.
Moving on.
Well, you've got the suit for the high class escort.
Right. Moving on.
You could do like a wee song as well.
I said moving on. Speaking of prostitution. Cool Mini or not?
Yeah.
What's been happening with Cool Mini or not?
Flawless segue.
Yeah, flawless.
Cool Mini or not have reported losses of $4.1 million for the 9-month periods ending in September 2018.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of money.
Is that a lot for them? Or
yes.
Is that just spare change?
Yes. No, that is over 30% of their revenue.
Oh wow, okay.
So what's happened?
So they are saying that the losses are due to decreases in revenue from Kickstarter.
I think they've grown too big too soon because they're sprawling.
I would agree. I think that it's, as you've just said, I think what's happened is they have gone down the road of pursuing a business model where they're just churning games out.
Fingers in all the pies.
And
of varying quality as well. Has to be said.
Wildly varying quality. As far as miniatures go,
always good.
Cool Mini or not always do good miniatures, but generally speaking, a lot of their games are middling to poor. So I think, because you need to think about this, like they're saying it's decreases in revenue from Kickstarter, but I do feel like Charlotte's saying that they've overextended, because in order to churn out the volume of games that they're doing, they need to very often pay for licenses. They've done quite a few licensed games, Wacky Races, a couple others like that. The manufacturing cost on miniatures is pretty high. So when you're producing as many games concurrently as Cool Mini or not are, you're paying for designers, you're paying for sculptors, you're paying for artists, you're paying for warehouse staff, you're paying for delivery men, packers. There are so many costs associated with pursuing that business model that I'm not really surprised.
Yeah.
No, but the point I want to make is this a problem that is unique to Cool Mini or not, or are we starting to see a decline in the tabletop industry in general? It has been steadily increasing pretty much since the late 90s. There's not an awful lot of businesses that can just continue to grow and grow and grow without entering some sort of period of decline as the supply starts to outstrip the demand for it, which is kind of what Cool Mini or not have been doing. They're spitting games out.
I can't really speak for general tabletop industry, but on Kickstarter there was, I can't remember the company now, but they'd issued a statement just to their backers to say that they'd seen a trend over the past maybe 5 or 6 games that they've released of the amount of people backing $1. And it started at the first one at maybe 2.3%, and then it was 3.5%, 7.8%, and I think in the last game it was 17% of the backers were $1.
That's quite a lot.
It's a lot, and they were saying they understand that a lot of people pledge $1 to get into the actual
to keep up with the updates,
further down the line. But they've seen an increasing number. Now, whether that means there's more people engaging with the process potentially, or whether there's more people opting, because there might be too many games. There might be there's not enough, not enough from your wage to go out, so you're being saturated with games.
I think there are a number of factors at play. I think Cool Mini or not have grown too quickly, and have overextended themselves. I do think that the market is oversaturated, but I had a discussion with it was over on the Dice Roll Cafe Facebook, with a couple of the people there this morning, because Kenny had shared the article, and we've touched on this a couple of times before, how in the early days of video games they were very much informed by the tabletop, but where there was a period, I think, where video games was in its infancy, but is now, I would argue, it has grown to the point where in many ways it is a more evolved.
It's a matured medium
than the tabletop, right? That's a good phrase to use. It's a matured media, or medium.
That's not an old psychic.
No.
There's your dad jokes.
Derek Cora is back.
Sloth.
we get a lot of Derek Cora references on this podcast.
Yes, and we will continue that trend. Continue that trend. Sorry, we were talking serious business there.
So one of the things that I've noticed is that, and we've talked about it before, video games are now informing tabletop, because tabletop still has a bit to go. Although it's been around for a long time, I think tabletop as we know it still has a bit of growing up to do.
It's probably more, rather than design philosophy, more on the business models, right?
I think a bit of both.
Maybe a bit, yeah. Okay, sure.
But I'm saying that to say that one of the things that I've noticed is that tabletop is starting to encounter obstacles that video games have already circumvented or surmounted.
Well, I mean, if you look way back to video games in the early to mid 80s, right? This is kind of the problem we're having now, where you've got terrible quality. Like, just too many video games came out in the 80s on the Ataris, and that caused consumers to lose confidence. Well, and is that maybe what's happening?
These things come in cycles, because this problem actually repeated itself in 2013 in the video game market. Because if you'll remember, what happened was we had a run of AAA games that were just not ready for public consumption, but people rushed them out. Assassin's Creed Unity, in many respects the original Destiny game, and there was a few others. Big multi-million-pound games from very prominent international publishers that were fundamentally broken.
Yeah.
But what happened was there was a change in dynamic, and what happened up till that point was that the video games industry was dictated by the publishers.
Yeah.
They set the release dates, and those developers worked to that come hell or high water, and then they put that thing out for that date. But what happened was, because there was a run of such poor work, and it was an industry-wide problem, it wasn't just one or two developers. What you're actually seeing now is games are sometimes... I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2, I think, was delayed by nearly 2 years. Because what happened was the developer turned around and said, we're not ready yet.
Yeah.
We need more time.
We need to get this right.
And Take-Two Interactive, which is one of the biggest companies in the world, just turned around and said, right, we're not putting it out yet. We're going to delay it until it's ready. And I say that to say that I think what's happening is that tabletop is rushing out a glut of games.
But I would say that Kickstarter encourages that, because you don't need a finished product.
It does.
To be on Kickstarter.
It does, because it's... To use one of my friends' phrase, it's all fart and no poo.
That is disgusting.
It's style over substance. It is disgusting. It's a disgusting business model.
The fart and poo economics. Yeah.
But it's... In many ways, it's a mirror image of 2013 or the 80s in video games, where people, the guys with the cigars and the cognac and all that, oh, here, got a nice little cash grab here, and they milked it for all it was worth, but they ended up shooting themselves in the foot, because you can only push the market and therefore the consumer so far, and then they'll turn around and go, actually, this is shit. I'm not doing it anymore.
I think as well, though, I think there has been, maybe I'm being quite naive or just quite idealistic even maybe, that I do feel there is a change in the ethical perception, I suppose, of a lot of people, where I know a lot of people...
In relation to what?
Well, even just in general, but especially in tabletop gaming, I do feel that people are more likely to support an independent designer than they are. Not saying instead of, but you do feel... I have seen that a lot of people will go all out for a small independent designer, whereas maybe they would just sort of go with it.
No, so I think some of the big flashy Kickstarters, I mean, you go on and look at some of the comments there, and a lot of people have got this top backer title. There are some people that are absolutely fanatical about companies like Cool Mini or not. So I think maybe that's been our experience, like being around conventions and things like that, where there is more of a community spirit. But there is still... Obviously it's slowing down a bit if Cool Mini or not's numbers are anything to go by, but there's still a pretty sizable market out there that are... I don't think necessarily... I don't think it's that they don't care. I think they're maybe not aware of or don't understand the longer reaching consequences of that sort of economy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
I do even just thinking there though. I do remember Justin from Bad Cat Games, when I was chatting to him about the relaunch of Gladiatores. And he'd said that he was trying to find a good window, but then realised there was no good window. There's no space. There used to be that there was maybe a quiet period. There's not anymore. It's constant.
And one of the things that we said further back, actually talking about the independent guys, is that it's becoming more and more common for people to cancel Kickstarters. It is as though the well is maybe drying up a little bit, and then whatever portion is left there, like you're saying, there's a lot of $1 pledges. People are having to be a bit more selective, and it does mean, unfortunately, a lot of the time that the independent guys are losing out on their market share to these bigger guys. So,
because I mean, we've had months where we've had to decide. We've not had as much money as we would like to spend on board games,
Yeah.
and so we've had to decide which one we want to prioritise. And
As long as the choice isn't between board games and food.
No, I mean like on Kickstarter.
Yeah,
no. In life.
Hopefully, my hope.
What I wanted to say was there has been times where we've still maintained a pledge.
Yeah.
Even maybe lowered the pledge slightly, but we still wanted to show our support.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was wanting to.
My hope is that the developers, more the publishers, to be fair, but sometimes it's both, will take stock of, no pun intended, of what's happened with
Love it.
with Cool Mini or not,
Love it.
and we will see a decline in these lunatic prices that are being charged for board games now, because a lot of the time, actually, and I didn't think this would happen, I'm finding myself choosing between whether I buy a video game or a tabletop game. And a lot of the time it's the video game that's winning out. Because it's like, I pay £50 for the video game and I'm going to get, 100 hours out of that. Whereas the tabletop game might get played a couple of times.
There we are.
So it's not just the market that's at stake here. I do believe it is the overall longevity and health of the hobby. But I don't think the outlook is necessarily bleak. I think there is time to change, and I think it starts with people just not being so bloody greedy.
Well, I was going to say that I think this might already be the beginning of the change.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I think the writing's on the wall.
Yeah.
And there is a window in which they can choose to heed that.
The writing's on the wall. The dude's still there.
Yeah.
He's got his pen out, writing some obscenities about
Drawing
someone's. Yeah, actually, yeah. Give a man a blank canvas, and the first thing he draws is a cock and balls.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's still time.
As Picasso once said.
Yeah. So on that cheery note,
there is one last thing that we did forget to talk about. I might edit that wee bit out so it doesn't sound like we forgot to talk about it. There's one thing we want to finish up on.
Oh yes.
And that's what will be happening next week in Glasgow.
Yes, there is the Lucky Sparrow Cafe.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Smooth.
No, it's just the way everyone's looking at me like you should know this, Ben.
Yeah, we talked about this. So Lucky Sparrow is a new board game cafe that's going to be opening in the south side of Glasgow, in Shorelands.
Our locality.
Our turf.
Yeah.
We're on our turf.
Yeah.
The Lucky Sparrow and then Lucky Frog.
Yeah. So we're going to balance each other's luck out. We'll just be a sparrow and a frog.
Imagine it being quite zen.
Yeah.
The Sparrow and the Frog sounds like an old-timey pub.
Well, there we are. Yeah. So that opens on Friday the 30th of November.
Yep.
We are going to be popping along
on the 29th.
On the 29th for their press night.
Yes.
Exclusive.
Yes, we don't need to go in with the unwashed masses.
Yes, I shall dust my monocle.
Yes. My bowler hat.
One coffee and a copy of Kaplunk to play, please.
The gentleman's game.
Everyone knows that old geezers with monocles love Kaplunk.
Yes.
That's why they wear the monocles, so that they don't accidentally stab themselves with one of those sticks.
It was a favourite in the colonial clubs in the days of yore. Yes.
So yes, we'll no doubt have a good chat with the Lucky Sparrow folks and let you know how the opening goes.
Yeah, and get yourself down there. If you have anything planned for the 30th, get down there. There should be having.
Get along on the 30th, but it'll be open thereafter.
Yes,
so.
of course.
Yeah, cool. And on that decidedly more upbeat note than the Cool Mini or Not news, thank you very much for listening, guys. And until next time, take care.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Tom. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want to check out more Unlucky Frog, check their Facebook page. You can find it by searching Unlucky Frog Gaming. You can also support them on Patreon and check out their website at www.unluckyfrog.com.
Mention the Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget the Twitter.
They got Twitter too. It's pretty cool.